just barefoot around my house.
Why?
I don't know.
That's weird. So,
Like if you're sitting on the couch, like you just like kick your feet up on like the ottoman, just like toes out.
Nah, what do you mean? Free the feet. I can't even walk into Ben's house without feet free.
Take your shoes off at the door. Just like leave your socks on.
I don't like when people come in your house with their shoes on. The Japanese have it right.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Are you like a socks with shoes all the time?
No, not at all. Look at these. Slipper shoes.
Okay.
Slipper shoes.
You know what happens with those though.
Yeah, they smell like shit. Then they throw them on and get another pair.
Exactly. You know, like me and Ryan have had the Fluxes for a while. I love rocking the Fluxes without the socks on. But the problem
They
is,
smell.
and like my feet like carry that for like weeks. Like right now, if you guys, either one of you guys got a waft of this right now,
These are pretty
both
cool.
of y'all are knocked out.
Try these out. These are called timeless.
Not a sponsor, Dad.
Really comfortable.
Yo.
Right? No, whole other level. And you actually don't sweat, and you can wash those. But the problem is you wash them once, like it doesn't have that like gentle like rabbit fur feeling.
I see. Welcome back to the POG Podcast. We're here today. We're not really going to take this too seriously today. So if you're used to very buttoned up episodes, this is not the one for you. But if you want to listen to a good conversation, we have somebody new on the show and also on the team. So we'll intro that later on the pod. We're going to talk about all types of stuff today. We're going to talk about what it's like to sell your company, or what's like the process of selling your company. We're going to talk about some stuff that we have going on at Gryt Media, which is really cool. But we got Ben and we got Mike on the show today. Mike, what is up, dude?
How we doing? Excited to be here.
Dude.
So Mike,
How you doing, Ben?
good man.
So for those that don't know, we're all like boys for the most part. Everybody that's been on the show from like a home team perspective has been a boy, but me and Mike have known each other for 6 years. 6 years to the day.
Yeah, about 6 years. Freshman year of college.
Yeah, we're in the same fraternity together. We've worked together in like the fraternity life a ton. And then in the last couple weeks, Mike came on as the head of business development for Gryt Media, which is super fucking cool. Business development is basically a fancy way to say like sales, but
Yep.
Mike is going to be kind
Fancy
of running
titles.
the sales department as we grow, which is super exciting. But yeah, obviously Mike's going to be a reoccurring co-host, going to be on the show, going to be rocking. You're going to see him on all the content. But what's it been like? First like 3 weeks. Are you annoyed with hearing my voice yet?
Yes. No, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. Coming from a freight logistics background, this is it's definitely a nice change of pace. Much more fun, meeting new people, getting around, doing what I love, which is sales, and being able to get to do it with my friends, meet you, Ryan, Jamie, Jace, now Ben. I'm super happy, man.
Yeah.
Super excited for what's to come.
We talked about this at the coffee station down there. I didn't know that about
Yeah.
you, Mike, that you were in the freight forwarding. That's a cutthroat business.
Yes.
But, it's kind of looking at, what was the biggest take from that? Like when I started my career, I was in ingredient commodities, same thing as cutthroat business. You're cranking out a couple hundred phone calls a day. Maybe you get a maybe out of
Right.
those 300 calls. And then that's
Yeah.
like, yes.
Yep.
I mean, it's a daunting, drooling discipline.
Yeah.
But you learn so much from that experience. Like what was your biggest take from kind of I was assuming that was your first job out of school. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. First job out of school. I went to school for criminal justice. The plan was to be a cop.
Mm.
And I went through that whole process. I got the offers from Fort Myers and Cape Coral and Naples. It's always what I wanted to do. Unfortunately, it's kind of like a movie scene. So I came from I did all the tests, the physicals, the drug tests, everything like that. I came to where they make me the offer. So I'm sitting on a conference table, and the lady, for example, Fort Myers, she kind of just like slid an offer letter over to me. I was reading down it, and they were offering it was like 38 grand a year to start. And that's when it kind of hit me where, I knew I always wanted to be a cop, but that was time where it was to make a decision. you know, do you really want to be a cop and accept, you know, again, it's a great profession. I would still love to do it. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's enough money to live on. I think the ceiling is too low on it too. You know, I mean, you're worked there for 5 years, you're working all this time and you're still making like 48, 50 grand. It's like, where's the upside into it?
But and the other side of that people don't really, I'm sure police don't talk about too much, is like, it's got to be taxing on your psyche. I mean, you're dealing
Yeah.
with such a negative space all day. I mean, not just criminals, just like
Yep.
you're there to solve problems. And it's
and nobody wants you to show up too.
No one likes you. I shouldn't say that, but like
most
people don't like you. You get a lot of shit. You're trying to like just be a peacemaker, and you're just getting shit on all day. So you get paid 38 grand or whatever it is.
You're getting shot at.
You're getting shot at. You're getting shit on. You're getting an egg in the face.
Yep.
That's a tough one, man.
It's a tough path to go down.
You wonder why a lot of cops crack.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
But we've talked about it. You have always, me and you had the same college path where we took every job known to man.
Oh yeah.
And we just tried it all.
Been a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And I was going to be a cop. But going back to your question though, the logistics, I mean, yeah, it's a daunting job. But what I will say, you know, I did it for about 2 years, and I think I'll look back one day and see that as one of the biggest like growth stages of my life. Whether maybe not personal, but with work and business and everything. The things you learn, man, it's really, you don't get that everywhere. Being work ethic. You know, that's a job where you're in there 6:30 in the morning and you're not leaving your desk unless you're peeing or you're going home at 7:00 at night.
Yeah.
And then even then, man, you get home and your phone's ringing all night long. You got, you know, the trucks don't stop, especially California. Hours are different. It's 3 a.m. My phone's still blowing up. It's just, you know, it's something you got to really love. You got to really want to do. And I don't even know if it's the love of the logistics. I think it's just.
Are you chasing the money?
It's the money.
Chasing the dragon?
You're chasing the money. I think it's
like, can you really say, oh, I love this job. It's so empowering. I'm excited. You know, but I get to help all these people and customers.
Exactly.
Come on, let's be real.
It's not
You're chasing the dollar, and you could only. I mean, I did that game for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's got. I mean, I guess some people have the makeup, and that's what they want to do, and good for them.
Yeah, I think it is exactly that. It's chasing the money, and I think that it's a job for people that graduate college and they know they want to make a lot of money, but they don't know what they want to do yet.
Right.
And I think that's why these logistics companies, they pitch themselves as like the cool office to be at, right? Like they have ping pong tables and they have all these fun games and they do beer on Fridays and all these events to try to attract those college kids that might not know what they want to do yet. And then what happens is you get stuck in a hole, you know, because you've been working there for 2 years and you're finally at a point now where you're building your own book of business and you're starting to see a little bit of return, but you're making 40 grand for the last 2 years and now you don't see a way out.
But you know what? It's like, I think in Australia, they're like making it a law or mandating that after hours, you can't contact employees.
France.
I went to Australia and then France.
Okay.
Well, after a certain time, after, 4:30, you're done.
Yeah.
What if you like to hustle? What if you want to make more money?
Yeah.
You know, I feel like this world is trying to like put everybody in this box that you got to work it. Like some people like to hustle, man. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong.
Depending on what you want to get out of life.
Yeah.
I mean,
and also what are you working on? I think it's the what behind the work versus the work itself. It's like I obviously we've been friends through the whole period and I've gotten to see some behind the scenes. It's not like you're getting on the phone with chipper people. Like you're getting on the phone with people from Iowa that just are cursing you.
You're getting punched in the face
all day, all night.
That's a tough gig.
Yeah, and like going to the France Australia thing, I'm wholeheartedly against that. I mean, I think that that's okay if that's who you are. If that's what you want to do, if you want to work that 9 to 5 and check out and go home, that is for some people.
But do you think the culture of America, that's where we're heading?
Yeah.
And what is the culture and what is the mindset around that?
Yep.
Well, I think with AI to be completely honest with you, like there's Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, there's a study that came out, or he came out and said that he believes by 2035, the 9-to-5er is going to be extinct. So think about that real quick. Because I've seen I won't mention names, but I've seen some work from home people, like this whole idea, the whole work from home thing. Like, so I was, again, I'm not going to say names, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. I saw somebody that was working from home and they're reading their book, they're doing their thing, and then they have their laptop pressed in between their phone so that it's hitting the space bar so that they're always showing that they're active, right? Yeah. And like you have maybe like an hour, 2 hours of like actual tasks to do in the day, and then that's it.
Yep.
It's super tricky. I mean, listen, I've got a handful of employees.
How do you manage that?
There's a level of trust, right? That you just have to surrender to the idea that it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I spent a good amount of time frustrated with that, that situation. But, I had to circulate a handful of employees that truly were taking advantage of the system. We have an open policy where, hey, I'm not mandating if you come in the office. If you want to come in, great. I'd like you to come in, at least a day, 2 days. Since the pandemic, I've got a decent amount of employees that are virtual, so you can't really put your finger on it. However, I've got good leadership that holds everyone else accountable. So I'm, shit's getting done and numbers are moving the way that they should. That's
that's your barometer.
Yeah, that's my barometer. So I don't get frustrated. My whole thing is, we talk about the work-life balance. Like, if you're getting your shit done, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer and an advocate of like, I want my employees to, if they need to take a break, take a break, but you're grown up. Be responsible, be respectful. If you're the way the system is set up right now, if you're taking advantage of the system, it's going to get caught through leadership.
Yeah.
And it's going to be brought up. And it's been brought up before. And, if you're taking advantage, you're going to get caught eventually.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, because I mean, we have a split team. So we have we have, 4 or 5 people here locally to the States. And then we have 4 or 5 people, Ryan, overseas? 4. So we have a 4-man team overseas. They're in Serbia. And it's like they're the homies, but like the only way they were able to track what they're getting done is by the deliverables that they deliver. Now, if I had middle managers that were in Serbia, I'd be a little bit more worried of like, what constitutes as work. But have you seen a position do better at like in a virtual setting than in person? Like for us, you can be an editor all over the world. We don't really care per se.
Yes. I've also noticed, as great as working from home sounded in 2020,
yeah,
it was good until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then you had to check into, hey, how are you actually doing working from home every single day, isolated by yourself?
Facts.
So I'd encourage, I was like, hey, come in. Like, it's good to have camaraderie. It's good to actually see people.
Yeah.
There's something to having a face-to-face conversation and that goes a long way. To look someone in the eyes and have a conversation, you can energetically feel really different. What's going on, and than having a conversation on Zoom, and the other person probably is in their underwear and they have their button up.
I think working from home takes a toll too, because everybody thinks they want to work from home until you actually do it.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, it's just such like an isolation thing. Like every morning you wake up, you never leave your house. It's almost depressing.
It's Groundhog Day.
It's depressing. Yeah, because you need to go out. Like hybrid is really the perfect model, because you can, some people do work better from home. Some people might get more stuff done.
Yeah.
Most don't.
Yeah, I have.
Most don't.
And I have a couple employees that, part of their, they'll work their ass off. They're like, listen, we like to travel.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just make sure you get your shit done.
Right.
If they're in Southeast Asia or doing whatever they want, like, I'm cool with that as long as they're getting it done. I'm not gonna, and they come back excited. Yeah. And I think that becomes more of a perk for them to having that flexibility. And I think if you give up a little bit, you know, they're going to go the mile, because if you've got good people working for you, they want to do good work for you.
I also think it's the culture of the company as well. And the thing that I've learned a lot from you, and the thing that we're building specifically, because we're in a hiring phase right now, we're in a huge growth phase, is like your environment and the work, like the environment that you build will dictate whether people want to come in and they want to collaborate or they don't. And it's, and also if they are working virtually, what kind of work are they doing? Are they enjoying the work that they're doing virtually? I think it's all about because we talked about Scotland, which is where you worked previously, and like they have such a dope model because it is all in person. And I actually think that that's what does good for them, because you have this team in a sense. And it's like, if you guys have seen The Wolf of Wall Street, it's like you're kind of like in that like high-paced environment. Everybody's on Adderall, everybody's just dialing, like it's that hustle. You know what I mean? It's that hustle grind.
And that keeps people working.
Ryan, he's a really good dude.
Yeah, he is.
And even tying that back to like the whole France Australia thing with like the stopping work after 5. I mean, listen, like we said, that's for some people. Some people should do that. That's what they're made up for. That's what they want to do. You close your laptop at 5, you check out, and you live your personal life. Yeah. But to mandate that, I mean, I think it goes against human nature in a sense of, there's also a lot of people like Jamie and Ryan and me and you that you want to work.
Yeah.
Like
this is still a capitalist country.
Yeah. Like I want to make money. I want to work.
This is still a capitalist country. Is it? Are we gonna price fix everything?
Exactly.
No, man. This is what makes America great.
Yeah.
Is the hustle.
Yes. And it goes to even saying, you know, people say like, if you do what you love, like you never work a day in your life. I think it's the complete opposite. I mean, I'm sure you can speak to this more than most. I mean, if you do what you love, you work harder than you ever had before. And more, because you work harder than you ever had before, but it's almost like, you know, like the tools feel lighter in your hands.
Yeah.
Right.
Ooh,
because you're working so hard all the time. It's 24/7. You know, you work all day, you go home, you open up your laptop, even if it's on the couch while you're watching TV, you're always thinking about it. You're always talking about it. But that's what you love. That's what you want to do.
And it's, and guys, it's, you know, what I have 20 years on you.
Yeah.
Your journey becomes different.
Yeah.
Right. You're at 24, 25, 26, you know, we'll have this conversation 10 years when you're 35, like your wants and your needs and your superpowers become a bit different.
Yeah.
And, you know, right now where you are as entrepreneurs and building businesses, you're fucking doing whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the fun. Like you're learning your craft. You're learning different things about yourself. You're learning like, where am I a better leader? Where do I need to get some help from? Or that's part of the journey. Which is fun.
It's fun.
You know, I'm at 45 years old. Like I'm grateful for where I'm at. You know, I'm focused more on the creative projects, you know, of the build.
Yeah.
I've learned that I love the build of a business.
Right.
In the beginning, not managing, not running, but the ideation, like what can we create next? How do we do it? How do we go from A to B? And then what does B2C look like? So I've got my hands on, you know, I'm super grateful. Like business, Pure is on fucking cruise control. I got amazing people running it. You know, I'm not in the day-to-day. Leadership is empowered and they're empowering, you know, the people that work for them.
Yeah.
So it's good. You know, we're not a hockey stick, but listen, we're hitting singles and doubles every single day and people are happy. I can't ask for anything more.
Right. But that's the name of the game of long-term, you know, business building. I think it's, I think in certain cases, when you're in the 0 to 1, which like I would constitute our business to give people context, I would say we literally just got from the 0 to the 1.
I would agree.
And it was pretty much like Jason and I were having a conversation. I was doing everything for the company pretty much full stop. And then what I was able to do was, obviously Ryan came on about a year ago, and like Ryan basically is the full operator of the company. Like Ryan actually has the brain to operate. I am not that person. And then what I've been able to do, obviously with Mike coming on board, is Mike is everything that I am from a sales side. And he basically is able to take what we've been able to build, and now he's going to, you know, grow it in a way that I couldn't, period. And it was this really cool moment that I had with Jace recently where I was on the phone and I was like, I had a sigh of relief because I feel like when you're building in the early part, like every day you feel like it's all going to disappear. And granted, that doesn't necessarily go away, but there is this feeling of when you feel you're pulled up by your bootstraps where you're like, okay, we're profitable, we're going to be okay. And the momentum of what we're building is there. You feel like
You feel the energy.
and
Yeah.
you
Feel
feel
the
like
pull.
there's this magnetic attraction of the universe where like I always like to say if you win all day, it's hard to lose. Like it's hard to take a loss and like let it repeat. Like if you
Right.
lose once in the day, it's okay. But if you have that forward momentum of like you feel like everything's going your way and you're kind of looking for everything to go your way, one little L is like,
Well,
eh,
it's a high, man.
it
Those
is
wins are high.
big
And
time.
they start getting, I sit back, from a different chair, just like watching everything
Yeah.
unfold, which is beautiful. I love it. Everyone's personalities here, but I can see like you are that energy seeker. You are that.
Yeah.
You're feeling it.
Yeah.
Jason, you got Ryan. You're pulling in. What do the numbers look like?
Yeah.
And it's good. You have a good team where
Yeah.
we've got a good team where that balance is starting, and it's all coming together.
It was cool because over the last year since we've been here, this actually September, 3 days from now, it'll be a 1-year anniversary that we've been in the Pure office, which is fucking sweet. Because the conversation we had beforehand, because we were doing all virtual. So we traveled to filming sessions and we were very much, and me and him had a conversation before he came on as a partner. And the conversation was legitimately like, you guys got to feel like a real business. Like it's this whole like, working out of your home office and, that whole thing. It's cool. And it's like, whatever, but like, who's going to take you seriously?
Right.
Like, not really. And over the year, being in the office and having people come here to the studio, it's like, it solidified us in a real way because we were able to, in a sense, show up as professionals. Like, I think we built a much more professional cadence to our workflow. And then not to mention also getting to watch a $20 million company below us operate on a day-to-day basis. You kind of pick up on that. Some of my darkest moments over the past year, it was lucky enough to have Ben in his office to be able to like kind of see me spiraling and come in and be like, wait a minute, this is not the end of the world. And this is the reason why we do this podcast, is because I don't know where I would have been without that moment, without those multiple moments where I had somebody say, hey, you got to move into a space because like you're not a legit business right now. Or, hey, like it feels like the world's going to end, but I promise you it's not. And I promise you'll wake up tomorrow and things will be all right. But that's why we started this podcast, is to kind of give people that, hey, the 0 to 1 build is fucking hard and very few people make it out of it. But like, if you just keep going one day at a time. But speaking of, from your perspective, Ben, looking where we're at, where do you see from that 0 to 1 phase? Like Pure was a little bit different because the 1 was like one Whole Foods and then boom, you know what I mean? Like what was the phase that we're in now? And if you were talking to somebody like that,
I mean, this phase I told you before, like I love the build. I love this phase. It's super uncomfortable the most.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's the unknown.
Yeah.
But when you've done it a few times, you're like, okay, I know how to go from A to B, and like trusting the process is a big thing. But once these pieces are together, the energy is going to pull it.
Yep.
And it is right now. And we're watching it pull. We're getting smarter. I knew it wasn't going to be perfect.
Yeah.
We weren't exactly looking at every single dollar that was coming in and out, but we knew, and we're fine tuning it, right?
Yeah.
Like how we're setting up, how we're selling, what do the packages look like? We're getting smarter.
Yep.
And it's dialing in, and it's what's great is now we have the option to choose who we want to represent. And that is powerful.
That's one of the biggest shifts that I felt lately, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
The thing I also disclaimer, we're going to give away about $100,000 in business coaching right now. I'm just going to give you guys behind the scenes of what Ben did for us when we came in, when he became a partner. He looked at our books. We were doing well MRR wise. We were making money and things were fine, but we were very not diversified in a sense. So we had like big clients, and then we had a lot of like kind of clients that weren't in our buy box per se. I think that's like a good way to say it. Like we were trying to sell as much as possible, but selling to the wrong people in a sense. And then we were over leveraged in some ways. So the first thing he was like is, we got to get more of what you guys actually, who do you guys service the best? What do you guys do the best?
Honing in on the mission.
Exactly. And what do you guys do?
And what resonates with you?
Exactly.
What do you guys connect with? What do you guys love? When the love is there, which is the highest frequency, not to get a little philosophical here, it just happens.
It does.
Right. Yeah. And once you started cleaning out,
bullshit,
pain in the ass clients that you weren't aligned, it was, but listen, guess what? In the beginning of a business, you got to do what you got to do.
You just got to sell.
I had a handful of those accounts when I started. I was like, fuck it. They paid the bills. I didn't talk about it too much. I was like, yeah, we're working with them, but it's like, fine. You got to do what you got to do. But right now, where you are, it's powerful. It's great. And it's only going to snowball.
And the other piece that you said was watch your dollars, like actually watch your dollars. I'm not like a finance guy in a sense. Like I'm like a Ben. I'm a builder. I'm a, run off of emotion, run off of vibes, run off of, you know what I mean? Like trying to, nothing is a no for me. Like I can do everything. We can do everything. And
then Jace gets involved.
And then CFO Jace gets involved. And we got a beef on that. But you were legit. You were like, yo, like actually every dollar you make, track it. And then come to find out we were spending 115% of what we were making.
Right. And what was that conversation? This is going to be hard. You're not going anywhere for 5 months, and let's see what happens.
And that's exactly what we did.
And you honed in, being ADHD, like all of us are as entrepreneurs all over the place. Just focus in one place for a short amount of time, and you will watch growth.
And so like a huge thing was we had started our business based on us going out and traveling to people. Like before we had everybody, when you're in the zero phase, like true zero, you have nothing.
You're hunting.
You have nothing, and you will do anything to get your first deal. You will you'll sell anything. You'll sell something that you don't know if you can fulfill yet. Like you'll do anything. And what we were doing at the time was traveling to everybody. Anybody look at me and say, I might be interested in your services. I'm on a flight the next day.
On the way.
I'm out there because I want to show up. And that's how I got my first big client and all that type of stuff. But you start to look at it, and if you don't build something, like Mike says this all the time, you didn't coin it, but like you build it and they will come. Yeah. Like you build something of value, it is like a magnet. Mm-hmm. People will just flock to it. And like you really just have to focus on the actual doing of the thing versus all the sexy planes, trains, and automobiles to make it happen, which again, there's phases for everything, but that is some business advice for those listening. Watch your dollars, make sure you're legit. And like just take your time. Like you don't need to look like a boss before you actually are a boss. Like people actually don't like that most times.
Yeah. Going to what you said is like, you're building a business, you're building a culture. It's important that the customers that you're targeting fit that culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it's so easy, and we've seen it so many times where some people just aren't worth it. It's not worth the money. And I love the team we have. That's one of the bigger reasons that got me to come over here. I think a lot of people say it's not smart to work with your friends or don't do business with your friends, but I think you just don't have the right friends. Ooh. I think the 4 or 5 of us that we have right now, it's a perfect mix. Everybody has their strengths, and I think who better to run a business with and to trust than someone that's known you for 6 years.
Yeah.
Like I've known these guys in business, out of business for 6 years. They know my strengths, they know my weaknesses. Easier for them to call me out on things when I'm fucking up. I think if you have the right people, I think running a business with your friends is not an issue. I think who your friends are the issue.
You just have to be as clear as day. And that's, I worked with some people in the early stages of my business that were friends, and we parted.
Yep.
In the early days.
What did you learn from that? How would you do it differently?
I wouldn't have worked with them because it was like the same thing. Hey, I got this idea. Meanwhile, I had all the IP. I had, I had all the background in the space. And I was like, hey, you're an operator. I knew that was my was my gap.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, a buddy of mine, seems like, at least he told me he's a good operator. So I brought him on board and we got the momentum. And then, the conversation, we weren't really clear in the beginning about how this was going to play out, but we were getting to that. But as we started evolving and growing, like, I started noticing things about him that.
Was it ego? Like, was there this
there was a
feeling
lot of ego? There was, there was him playing off as he was the founder, but not really the founder. Yeah. And I mean, that's fine, but I didn't care so much about that. But when credit card, in the beginning stages when you didn't have any money and your credit card was getting maxed out, and you hear from someone, oh, I ran into your partner and he's, wow, you guys are killing it. You're blowing it up in Miami. I was like,
the hell?
What the fuck, dude? And that's suddenly you got to put on your boss hat to a friend, and it becomes hard.
Yeah.
So
the weird part about that, because I was always worried about that. Like, obviously, Jason and I, when we started the business, like, Jason and I were friends with the understanding of like we would go into business together. And so we had a little bit of transparency that like was always there. But the reason why I think we worked so well together and Ryan and I worked so well together is because we worked in Pike, which was a mini business. Like, again, I'm not going to sit here and like overemphasize
what were you selling? Fake IDs.
You're selling a dream is what
you're selling the dream. You're selling the dream. But it was like this, it was I think me and Mike were on the same exact board. My sophomore and junior year.
Yeah.
But we were on the same exact board. Me and him had to have the hardest and this is when we're both immature. And he's fired up about something, and Mike's always like that. I want to do, like, he was our social chair or all this stuff. He was the party guy. And I'm over here on the president's side being like, I don't want to do this, but we had to have it out. And so we had all these reps going into it where it's like, he's called me on my bullshit. I've called him on his bullshit. And we have this very transparent style of communication where, there's obviously things that we're not seeing and we'll go through it. But
I think it's important the biggest thing that we always say to each other is once you walk in like the office door, friendships are aside for a few hours until we leave again. So
I think a big thing is like, it's great to see that everybody here is doing the work to some degree.
Yes.
Yeah. When I started, we were still in this world of like a lot of alpha in the room. Like, it's all about being right.
Yeah.
It's tough especially when you got good friends, your alphas, there's ego.
Yep.
If you can have real conversations, and it's easy to get the results. I think that's the big thing. As long as everyone's on the same page and your goals are aligned, you can't take things super personal.
Yeah.
And listen, we all fuck up. We all say shit sometimes that we don't mean. Sometimes you got to own it. You got to swallow the pride for the sake of the business.
And you just got to realize, man, like, we're super lucky, like we get the opportunity to build this business, to do it together. Most people still don't know what they want to do with their lives. Most people are stuck in a job that they hate, a 9 to 5 in a desk. We get to do all these cool things. Like, granted, we're working insanely hard.
Yeah.
But it's like the things that we call work, people would kill to do as their job, right? Like, we're going to London next week, and then we're going to Los Angeles, and then we're coming back, we're going to Miami and filming there. It's like we're all over the place. We're always moving. It's been awesome. I think it's awesome.
And cherish these moments.
Yeah.
These are the best times, because guess what? In 4 or 5 years, when, we're $100 million company, we're stressed out of our fucking mind. It's not about the money.
Yeah.
And it's just it becomes a different conversation, and they're harder conversations. I think the best advice I can give is just always, you guys know when there's something looming that no one wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Facts.
We've been here.
Yes.
Just have the conversation, no matter how hard you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those conversations, when you got you have these personalities in the room, it will linger and it will hinder the business. So just have them, no matter, and usually 95% of the time you create a rabbit hole in your head of what the situation isn't really.
Yeah.
And they're not as hard as they're not hard conversations. They only feel like they're going to be hard. And sometimes you just got to get out and be done. And you're like, all right, smash it, be done. All right, where do you need to be? And sometimes you could be missing where that communication lies.
Yeah. And that's something you said to us last week that actually stuck with me big time, was like, you just have to be direct, man. Like, you can't, not everybody's going to take it well. Some people might take it wrong, but just can't wait. You can't waste your time. You can't waste other people's time. Like you said, you have to just get the conversation out of the way, and how the chips fall, they fall. You got to handle it from there as they go. You're not going to change the outcome by delaying the conversation. Just have the conversation.
That's the hardest. I'm learning. I'm getting better at it. Like, the hard conversations for me for a long time would be like the thing that stopped me in my tracks, because it would be like, especially if it was super confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, most people can like relate to this in the sense of like, a conversation is going to go a certain way. And sometimes I had to mature into my delivery of the conversation, how I had the conversation, what I wanted to communicate, how I wanted to communicate it. And what I've done, and most people can attest to this, I'm more blunt than I would probably want to be. Like, I just have a filter that's a little bit, like, I can be a little bit more like, if I try to be as authentic as possible, I usually say, like, Jordan can speak to this, Jace can speak to this. I'll say it in a way that kind of sounds like I'm a dick. And
you
so,
are
like, 100%. Mike can attest to this, but like, I don't know. That has actually been the number one thing this year. That was on. We do yearly like reviews with the team, and one of the number one things that the team we talked about was me improving in that skill set. When you got on board, that was actually one of the number one things we had to drill in terms of getting a lot of the loose ends in the company tied off, where you go have this hard conversation, go fire this person, make sure you're not dealing with this shit, make sure they're paying on time, and all those conversations were like, a little uncomfortable. But honestly, the funniest part is the more I have them, the more I just like, I get so excited about them.
It becomes, it's repetition, man.
Yeah, it is.
And it's these stories that you create in your head that are not even real.
Yeah.
And you just get it out in their conversations.
Yeah.
And if again, the more you align yourself with people that are on the same page and are on the same mission, they're not hard conversations.
No, they're just conversations.
And you know what? If they don't align, it's going to shake out, and it's meant to, like there's some shit, there's some crunchiness in between, and like there's a reason for it. And then you shake out whatever reason. Maybe these people don't have the money that they talk they do.
Yeah.
And they can't, and why aren't you paying me on time? What's going on? And then suddenly it's like, well, this is what's going on. Okay, well, tell me and we'll work with you, than like trying to be shitty and dodging me. Like, that's
going to be a problem.
So, you brought that up, Mike, it's about being direct.
Direct. Yeah.
Everyone's saving time. Everyone's time's valuable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's, to me too, it's like time is so valuable. It's really, what I think is most valuable is attention. So I think of it like time's always going to keep going anyways. So it is as important as it is it's what you put your attention to with your time.
Yeah.
Right. So basically it's a similar concept. It's just that time is not the object that we should be chasing. It's attention. It's what are you giving your attention and energy to? Right. Because that's what's going to make the difference at the end of the day.
And it's interesting because focus has been a big thing on our, like, a big shift in our model. Before, like, I'd say last year, we were caught up in the woman in the red dress. Like, every couple of months, somebody would come up to us and be like, hey, you guys are running something really cool, but if you come over here, I can give you X, Y, and Z, and this is going to be all this. And like, they sell you on this dream that's like, everything's going to be peachier than what you're doing right now. And honestly, Alex Hormozy talked about this, but it's like, every time you go to the devil or the woman in the red dress, you're basically just restarting at level 1.
Yep.
And like, it's hard to get from level 2 to level 3 but it's much harder to go from level 0 to level 3 again.
Just gotta focus, man.
Just gotta focus.
I think that's one of our biggest issues right now.
Yes.
You said biggest issues?
Biggest issues right now is that exactly. I mean, we have our core businesses, and that's what's successful right now. It's working. We have the strategy. We have the plan. We just got to keep the gas, keep the pedal down, keep moving. So, I think that's one of our biggest issues right now, because we're doing very well with what we do as a company, with the filming and the marketing. But we have all these ideas, right? We have all these great ideas.
Ideas are good, man. That's why you just got to reel them in.
So Thrive, for example.
We're all, listen, what's our core? We're all into health and wellness and doing good while doing good. And creating good content with the right people, with the utmost integrity. We just got to keep sticking that out.
Right.
And if, again, the red dress, the shiny objects come in and we get excited.
Right.
Level 1
well,
every time.
Tactically, tactically going a little bit deeper, we're pretty transparent, but like the biggest goal that we've had is get to $1 million a year off just content, off just our main business. So if we can get to $1 million a year doing our core competency, then we can venture out. So we had the idea of Thrive, which we've talked about it at length. We're basically in the process. In October, we were going to throw this massive health and wellness event, like trying to get 1,000 people there type of event. Like we wanted tons and tons of people. And honestly, I love that because it's sexy, it's new, it's all these new challenges, and like it gives me this stimulation that the main business, after a certain bit, you kind of get like, it's routine.
It's the building again.
It's exactly.
You always want to get back to the building phase, just like you were saying earlier. It's something new. It's that you almost, the same thing is attention is so important, because we were so busy and focused on getting this event out and making sure this event was perfect that you lose track of what our business actually is.
Yes.
Which is marketing and content and personal branding and social media.
I mean,
and there's only so much time in a day, and you only have so much attention to give. And there's only so many of us right now. We don't have 20 employees yet.
Exactly.
That's
right. We can't take ourselves out of the day-to-day yet. And until we can take ourselves out of the day-to-day, we can't look to do things like Thrive yet. We have to focus on what we know.
And you've watched this. I've watched with some of the business, right? The accounts that you really love and align, because that's like our core culture.
Yeah.
You're so passionate into getting it right for them. Guess what's happening from there? It's like, all right, hey, I got this guy. I mean, this is not a hard sale. They're already selling you.
Yeah.
And you're walking into just the next opportunity where, hey, now there's another $150,000 or $200,000 account. We didn't have to put on the red dress.
Right.
Exactly.
We didn't have to wait, look at us. We're that cool. Listen, it's good to be fucking stealth.
Just do what we do.
Focus.
It's funny because it's like when it gets mundane, as a builder, I get super anxious, and like, it's honestly since the last experiences that I've had on my current psychedelic medicine journey.
Shout out Dr. Charles.
Not Dr. Charles.
Doctor, yeah.
Charles. The thing that I had to learn about myself is I don't like being in a situation that feels mundane. I love chaos. I'm addicted to it in a weird way. I feel like I've weaned off of it a little bit, but like Ryan can attest to it. But like when things get routine, I start to get like, wait a minute.
I get it.
And it got to a point where, because that was another part of what this whole year has been, is stay focused. And we have seen the most growth in our core competency. We had a mentor back 2.5 years ago when we first started, and we told them the concept of what we're doing, working with high-level people, giving them something that people don't like. It isn't in the market right now, podcasting, all the things that we were doing. And he looked at me and he said this is not going to pop quickly. This will not pop quickly. This is going to take much longer than you want it to. But in 5 years, this is 2.5 years ago, in 5 years, you are going to be so happy that you stuck to it. And like 2.5 years in, I'm like, yeah.
We're on the track, man.
There's no secret sauce, man. That's any business. I mean, listen, there's one-offs. Everything we see on Instagram, everybody's making millions of dollars, right? But that's not real. The real businesses take hard work. And the real businesses where you put in the time, those are the ones that stick around, right? I've been at this shit for 17 years. I mean, like you, right? I want what's next. And it's hard. It's hard to put that, someone who has that creative mind that sees an angle. You want to jump on the next thing. You want to jump on the next thing. I did it. You know, I had to learn some really hard lessons on that journey. I've lost tons of money getting excited about shit that, you know, I probably shouldn't have invested in, or, you know, products that I probably shouldn't have launched because I was excited. But sometimes you got to take a step back. When something works, just focus there
and go all in. And
go all in.
The thing that we have gotten, the biggest thing that took us from 0 to 1 was the referral business. So in being in a service, like we provide a service to people. You're competing against a bunch of other people that provide similar services, but not the same exact thing. Once we took our service to a level of our clients were getting results and then referring us business and being like, you guys have to work with these guys. That is why focus is so important, because if we were a marketing agency where was like, we do it all. You need a website? We got you. You need this done? We got you. You need that? We got you. Guess what? We're going to be half-ass at everything and not great at anything. And like the biggest thing that I think I can attest to is we're great at a thing. And that's what we're known for. That's what people come back to us for. That's the thing that I'm proud to say, and obviously knock on wood, we haven't churned anybody in 7 months. Our entire business has not churned one person. Again, knock on wood. But honestly, I don't even believe in the superstitious shit, because the thing that people do is that they're impressed by what they do. We're impressed by the fact that we haven't churned in 7 months. But if unless you're involved, you can only be impressed for so long. People don't give a fuck. They care about how involved are you in the day to day. And so that, like, you know, the biggest moment of the year, I'm totally open to talking about this. We lost a bunch of business on one day. And the biggest thing was, you told me, I kind of had the same kind of feeling. What was I doing? I was fucking distracted. I was super distracted. I was all over the place. I wasn't confident in myself. I wasn't certain in what I was selling. I'd get on the phone with somebody and be so confused with what I was doing that I couldn't even talk to somebody with confidence about what I was going to do for them. If people aren't certain that you're going to help them, they're on to the next person. But the conversation that you said, you're like, you guys, listen, this isn't just going to happen. But what did I do? Got super involved, stayed super focused from February to now. Now, all of a sudden, we're in a great position. We're able to grow. And again, we're not churning because we're involved and we're getting results for people at the end of the day.
So do you want to stay on that path, or do we want to sway outside into creating something that may distract us?
Exactly. Well, I think I read a book. It's 0 to 100 million. It's called Ready, Fire, Aim. It's a really good book by Mark Madsen, I think. And he gave this framework that basically, once you get a part of your business up to a certain level, so your business Pure has an ingredients division and a commodity, or retail and ingredients. So explain the difference between both of them for the audience.
Technically three.
Okay, 3.
You know, direct to consumer, Amazon, retail, Walmarts of the world, and then, you know, a B2B ingredient business. So, you know, we're supplying raw material, stevia, a handful of other ingredients to food, beverage, nutraceutical, and cosmetic manufacturers. So 3 different divisions, 3 different legs.
Did you start with one?
Yeah.
What was that one?
So it's actually a good story. So when I started, you know, initially it was developing a sweetener product, primarily stevia. That's what I started with stevia. Launched it. And I was hyper focused I was like obsessed with the idea that stevia is a better alternative to artificial sweeteners, saccharin, aspartame, sucralose, these ingredients that the white papers were out there that the shit was bad for you.
Yeah.
And then when I was trying to create a better for you version of Red Bull for myself, and I stumbled across stevia at the time that wasn't approved by the FDA, I was like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
So there was 2 issues. One, stevia tasted like absolute ass. It was super bitter. I was like, all right, how am I going to figure out how to make this taste like sugar? That was like number 1. 2, the mission was like, all right, well, if I can figure that out, I could change the way how food and beverage manufacturers are producing food and create better for you products for health conscious consumers like myself, as well as a better alternative for diabetics.
Yeah.
It was that simple. I mean, listen, I was pretty goddamn naive. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I just figured it out, you know, but I was focused on those few points. And, you know, we started getting momentum. You know, I had a couple accounts that weren't very glamorous, but it started producing money for the company. And then we started getting calls from the Whole Foods of the world and some of these larger retailers.
What was your first product, the packets?
Yeah, the packets.
And but that was that your 0 to $1 million?
My first order was far from smooth, but
yeah, that's a funny story.
You learn from that.
But was that your 0 to $1 million?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got a couple accounts. We got to $1 million pretty quickly, and then after that, with that momentum, I started getting phone calls from food and beverage manufacturers. Random, you know. I remember. I think I told you the story. I got a call from an applesauce manufacturer, and they're like, "Yeah, I heard about this stevia. You know, kind of heard about you guys. Are you Steve?" I mean, it was a joke. No one knew it was. It was a better alternative to chemicals. And yeah, I heard about this Steve guy. Like, you the Steve guy? I was like, yeah, I'm the Steve guy. Can you create an applesauce? You know, how do you help us take the sugar out of applesauce? I was like, oh, I'll figure it out. Literally, I went to the grocery store, or you know, got a bunch of unsweetened applesauce, dumped some stevia and shook it up. I had no idea. Sent it out to a customer. He calls me up. He's like, hey man, yeah, I got this. You know, I got your stevia sweetened products, and it sounds good, but this is filled with mold. Again, no clue what I was doing, but you gotta go through that.
Yeah.
And but organically, that business, I was like, all right, so there's something here. No one's really calling out on food and beverage manufacturers. So then I got a lot smarter, brought in some R&D people that knew what they were doing. And, you know, that division just.
And was that 3 to 5, or was that like 1 to 3 to 5 mil type of thing?
That they both started kind of growing one at a, you know, kind of at the same time as stevia started getting recognition and more people started becoming aware of it. From the branding side with Pure, I start, you know, more and more, and we were out there in the space. I was working with, you know, organic and natural foods, you know, that whole space started growing at the same time. So as I was growing, I met a lot of, you know, a lot of folks in that space, a lot of business owners. They were launching their business at the same time. So it was really easy to have conversations around, you know, hey, you know, you got 15, 20, 30 grams of sugar. Let me help you out.
Yeah.
I can do it without compromising taste, really. So, you know, then we were becoming a little bit more sophisticated on how to work with research and development.
Right.
And after you do a beverage once, you do a protein powder twice, it becomes second nature. You kind of, you're backlogged on here are the starting points. So you can walk in, you know, I was pretty confident walking in. I mean, I had meetings with Pepsi. I'd walk into meetings with, you know, a team of 20 scientists. I was way out of my league. Like, listen, you got to be cocky. You got to be confident.
I remember, because we have a similar story in the fact that we saw something in the market from a marketing perspective. We were part of like a marketing agency, mastermind.
Yeah.
And you're talking like 100 different marketing agencies in this one mastermind. Everybody's doing one thing. They're doing paid ads. They're doing this. They're doing that. We had come up with this idea of the fact that like influencer marketing was this very big thing. And nobody was flipping that and saying, okay, we have all these influencers that are building businesses, but we don't have business owners that are becoming influencers.
Right.
Like that doesn't exist in the marketplace right now. And through the ideation of that, we were like, that would be fucking huge.
Yeah.
Like that, if you were able to take a CEO founder and make them as popular as a Mr. Beast or Logan Paul or whatever, now you've cracked a new code. When we started selling this to people, people were like, what are you talking about? Reels? What are that?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing that? What are you talking? And we got so much, we got a lot of no's, honestly. And we got a lot of people that second they got a dip in revenue, like by 15%, they're cutting you because they don't think that you're like, as necessary to the business as they do now, where now we have people like the best thing that Hormozy said is like, you should build something to where if the payment lapses, they come hit you up because the payment lapsed and they need to get it sorted out. Like you need to build something so good that people can literally not do it without you. And that, again, over time, now we're taking over entire marketing divisions.
Yep.
Now we are the number one. We are most people's entire marketing budgets, which is crazy.
If you think about, like, even from your perspective, like if you can hire 2, 3, 4 employees to run a marketing team, and I mean with salaries now, that's costing you probably, what would you say, like $250,000 a year, something like that.
This is a tricky conversation.
Why?
I mean, I've walked. There is a need for what we do.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm not saying
Yeah.
there isn't. But for example, like I shared the story how I took a good year off. I was so burnt out, finger on the pulse, P&Ls every day. Pandemic hit. I walked into a bit of a shitstorm where my VP of marketing had 8 to 9 different agencies on board and there was no KPIs. And it was literally my money just hemorrhaging millions of dollars.
Yes.
And once I started peeling back layers, I was like, unnecessary. It's very easy to watch your money go very quickly from a marketing
in marketing for sure.
Yeah.
So I was able, like, maybe it's a little different. I rebuilt my marketing here, and where I had probably 30 between all the agencies, 40 plus people. Now we've got a team of 4 or 5 that are just crushing it.
But that's what we see with us.
Right.
So Ryan is on calls every week where it starts off with this whole marketing team that probably they're spending like 50, 60 grand a month on their marketing team.
But they're looking to us for all the answers.
And like, somehow we're producing the most, we're doing the most, and we're actually moving the needle the most in the marketing division. And everybody else is just like,
And I've reverse engineered the system within my organization. But yeah, to your point, it's very easy for people on the marketing side to just hide behind other agents. Oh, I'm doing it. Look at all the KPIs. Meanwhile, it's the other marketing agency that comes in, they sit in a room with you and they're like, oh, look at the growth. We have so many eyeballs. And I'm, as a business owner, I'm like, all right, well, what does that translate into dollars? Well, we're killing it. Trust me. I'm like, trust you. I'm watching a shitload of money, our profit, sink. So
and the other thing that we know about our business, which is a very big indication, we are PR and marketing in one.
Yeah.
So like people spend a lot of money on PR, like the old school thing. Ben, you actually did this back in the day. What did you do when you did big PR presses?
I hired a
PR agency, and they got you on newspapers and magazines and all this stuff. And that was a traditional way of doing PR. The pitch that we have for people is, hey, we're going to build your PR machine. And then you are your own PR machine. And then people are going to reach out to you to get on podcasts. And they're going to do all that. So that was the other indication. It's like some people will come to us and be like, where's my ROI on this? And I'm like, listen, we've sold $80,000 of services that didn't exist for one of our clients. He didn't have an offer, and we sold $80,000 of services because of the attention. But if you have a core competency in your business and you're making money doing that, and like you tell me all the time, you're spending $1 and getting 2 back.
Right.
We're going to be that extra sauce that's going to help that $1 that you're spending turn to $4 instead of $2 in a sense.
And there's a value add, man. I mean, listen, if you're working with, a CPG company or any kind of business that's doing anywhere between $2 and $10 million in revenue, like the spend on marketing to use a service like us it's a drop in the bucket.
Exactly.
And if the strategy is, hey, we're going to build your brand, your personal brand that's going to drive PR to you. I mean, PR is expensive. I was spending thousands of dollars for publications. And is it worth it? I don't know. Yes, sometimes no.
My biggest thing is what I see now. We're in a phase where we've done what we've done so many times, and I'm starting to see the consistencies. Somebody will start with us, and they'll start getting content out. Things will take a little bit long. Like everybody wants to be a one-hit wonder, and they want to whatever. Doesn't work like that. You put out reps and reps and reps, and then what happens is now all of a sudden you get a pop where a video gets 100,000 views, 200,000 views. Then your followers go up, and then other people that look at you like you're all of a sudden, you're the next big thing. They're hitting you up. Hey, will you be in my magazine? Hey, will you be in my podcast?
Yeah.
Hey, will you do this? Hey, will you do that? I always say to business owners and people, it's like, go spend the money on the PR agency. But you, in my opinion, and I'm biased to what I do, but like you're better off spending the money building something that isn't a drop in the bucket. It isn't just an article.
Let's be honest here. Where do most people spend their time? They spend their time on their phone,
exactly,
and on social
scrolling
platforms.
media.
Exactly.
Who's really looking through publications anymore?
No,
Come on. So it's just a different mindset.
Yep.
It's new. For
super
someone
new.
who's old school that's used to running a business a certain way, it's a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
And most business owners are just not patient.
No.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put a proper ROI. But the biggest thing is if you actually come in here and do the reps, which is a lot of work, you'll get the ROI. But I think you guys do a really good job is just being clear to our customers. Like if you don't come in and do the work and put in the reps, you're not gonna get the return.
Yeah. It's like anything we talked about earlier, like energy, right?
Yeah.
Like I tell our team every day, it's like 70% of our job is to make them so convicted that they believe that they're going to be the next big thing, that when they sit down, they already speak like they're the next big thing.
Right.
Like our job, we can put all the bells and whistles around you. We can get the nice cameras and we can make you look pretty and all that type of stuff, but you got to be confident in you.
Right.
And in a lot of cases, the reason why I think the influencer versus business owner thing is happening right now, where you're seeing more business owners becoming famous versus like the influencer market has shrunk 70% since 2020. I have a belief that most influencers are going to be like the full-time content creators are going to be out of jobs or like not able to actually fulfill a living doing it because businesses are so tired of it. It's like they're pompous. They believe that their value is super, like way more expensive than they're actually valuable. And I'm going to business owners like, hey, guess what? You don't have to do that. Let's just make you famous.
Yeah.
And that's where people are getting the most, they're getting the most excitement. And I mean, listen, it's not for everybody. Not everybody is meant to be camera ready.
And not everybody's comfortable doing it.
Exactly.
Yep,
but we also have a solution for that. We're working with people now, and the long-term vision of what we're building for the influencers that are struggling to pay their bills every single month, that are trying to sell themselves to every brand, which way, like we're building an ecosystem now where influencers are coming on our team over the next couple of years, and we're going to be able to pair them up with CEOs and founders who are just getting their legs in the content world. And we're going to put them on podcasts together. We're going to really give these business owners a way to have talent that is actually signed up on board, because if they're signing with Gryt Media, they're signing for years.
Yeah.
And that means that when they work with somebody else, if they're going to go work with this new client that we're bringing on in the health and wellness space, guess what? You have to be aligned with that. And then we're going to put you on the show, and it's going to give them massive exposure.
There's definitely, what's really cool, what we're starting to see is the cross-pollination.
So cool.
Yeah.
So
like, hey,
cool.
You call them up, and when you do good work for people and you go out of your way, and it's like the ask that I talk about. Like, you don't ask, you just do because it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And these things just happen organically.
That was the other thing that I really noticed was the Airbnb founder talked about doing the unscalable, not thinking to scale it. So everybody gets so caught up in like, especially service delivery. Well, I can't go do X, Y, and Z for my client because how is that scalable? Who gives a fuck if it's scalable? Are they like, your focus is so, it's not focused on what it should be, which is be as valuable as possible and be as valuable as an asset to the person, to the company, to whoever. Don't think about, is this scalable? Because the reality is, it shouldn't look scalable out of the gate. It shouldn't make sense, especially in a service delivery perspective, because if you're doing something in the service space that is actually unique, it's complicated, getting the deliverables out. Like our back end, like most people just do short form content, or they just do podcasting, or they just do podcast booking, or they just do like these very specific things that we happen to put all into one. But that took time, and we didn't know how we were going to scale it until we did. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just be as valuable as possible and then figure out the scaling shit later on.
Yep.
Now, before we sign off, the last thing that I do want to talk about is what we have been having a conversation about, which is scaling to exit. We had a conversation when we first, like you were first considering coming on board. Again, I didn't really, it's so interesting being a business owner. Like you don't know your company and you'd run it for like a year and a half, 2 years, and you still don't know your company. Like you're just doing. But you asked me, you're like, is this a lifestyle thing or are we trying to build to sell this? And at the time I had no fucking clue. And I honestly told you, I was like, I think this is a lifestyle business. And it wasn't until we had one of the people that you put me in contact with that came to us and go, hey, your expectation of what you can be is much smaller than what you can actually be. Like you can be like, I told them, I was like, my goal is, be a $2 million company in the next 2 years. And he's like, no, you can be a $20 million company in the next 2 years based on your cost of acquisition, based on your LTV, and based on your churn, basically. And so they just flip the mindset. From your perspective, knowing that you've had conversations about selling and you've obviously had plenty of offers, like what would you say, putting yourself in our shoes, how do you build to sell without getting too caught up in like, a lot of people just build businesses and they're like, I'm just going to sell it. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. It's not that simple, but giving us advice and giving the people listening advice, like how do you build a company to sell?
Do you want to create a lifestyle business or you want to create a company that's sellable?
What's the difference between them?
Pardon?
What's the difference between them?
I mean, listen, you could run a business, if you got a $5 million business, you're making 15-20% profit, what does that come to? 10, give me some math, guys. 10% of 5 is $500,000.
Yeah, $500,000 a year.
Okay, so you create a nice little lifestyle business. You're able to pull right off a good amount of money and take a very nice salary. And depending on how in the business you want to be, or outside of the business, or hands off or hands on, it all depends on what you want. Break even, write off what you want to write off.
Yep. And
it's great as long as you set the business up to run how it's supposed to be running.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be run. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
If you want to exit, it's obviously a completely different strategy. Show some profitability, you got to show the growth, you got to get the numbers, and timing is everything.
Yep.
Which, I've shared with you. I missed the timing on my exit, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like now I was able to restructure it in a way where we're back on track, we're growing, I'm getting phone calls, from people that are interested again. But again, it also depends on, the powder that's out there on the street that wants to buy specifically in industry. Everything shifts.
Yeah. That's why timing, the biggest thing that you've beaten into my head a million times over, get less emotionally involved. Like, don't be in this mindset of like, I have to, like, this is like I think as a founder, I become so romanticized of what I believe we can be. Like, I believe we can be $1 billion company. Is that true? Who knows? But if we get an offer for, 100, it's like, don't be emotional.
Bye-bye.
You know what I mean? Exactly. Sell the sizzle.
Yeah.
Especially with our timing, because I'm so grateful to have you as a partner around the fact that we're the trajectories, although different. You were in CPG, we're in marketing services, but like very new to the market. You're having to educate clients when you're selling them on what you're giving them. People like your competitors are slow to the punch. Like even your big boys, like they can't really do what you do because you're nimble and you're young. And I know we're going to go on a kind of on a run here where we're going to have this opportunity, but there's also going to be a time where that, like, I can anticipate there's going to be a time where, you know, the market will catch up.
Right.
And you will be 1 in a million.
You just right at this stage, you just can't be worried about it.
Yeah.
You just got to be worried about the focus.
Yep.
And keep doing what, you know, we just got to keep doing what we're doing, the blocking and tackling day to day.
Yep.
Keep over servicing our people, aligning ourselves with the right companies. It's still fun. Everyone's excited to come to work.
Yep.
And it will work out the exact way that it's supposed to. And when the timing is right, you'll know.
Yeah.
Trust me. I'll be there to be like, all right, it's time to start
It's time
having
to sell.
Exactly.
these conversations, and we will be positioned.
Yeah.
I didn't have the right people around me, I would say, like in my journey to kind of tell me about what an exit would look like for my company. It was just conversations when the company was like this. I was like, yeah, you know, the ego was there. Like, all right, well, I want to hit 100. I want to do 400.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't actually think that things could actually go wrong in a business. That's, you know, and that's the difference between I was by myself on this journey. I was writing it out, you know, completely solo. I had all the risk was on, still is, on me.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
But right now, exactly where we're at, just enjoy this process. You're doing everything that's supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I think we're super blessed to have surrounded ourselves with the people that we have.
So true.
You know, especially take you, for example. I mean, just, we're going to make a million mistakes. You know, that's never going to change, but at least you and some other people we have around us are there to keep us away from some of the bigger ones too. You know, we can avoid some issues.
And this is fun.
Yeah.
We just got to keep reminding ourselves, like, this is a journey. This is fun. We're all getting paid.
Yep.
You know, like
stay focused,
everything is good. No, like there's no suffering yet.
Yep.
The only suffering that we can create is our own internal shit.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Yeah,
man, this is like, I'm thankful for you guys. This is enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
So
question for you, like, being that you saw what we were a year ago, which was basically me and Ryan coming up here and, you know, sitting around and twiddling our thumbs a bunch, what the energy, did you start to see something that kind of, for the people listening, did you see something that you're like, oh, okay, the energy's shifting? Like, what was the moment that you were like, okay, maybe this can be something? Or what was your thought process around that?
When you started trusting the process a little bit more, and surrendering a bit on things that felt uncomfortable, and as they started becoming more comfortable, and you started honing in on, like, focus. Okay, here's my focus. This is what I want to do, and every single day there was a win, and that energy started rolling, and things started to track. I mean, when I would hear it in your voice how excited you were. Yeah. When everybody's excited, it's exciting.
Yep.
Right?
And that's contagious.
It's contagious.
And your clients feel that. The people working with you feel that. Like, it really is, once you have certainty in what you're doing. And a lot of the time over the last year is just, or not so much last year, but early this year was figuring out, what are we doing?
You know what it is? Not to cut you off, but I just want to get this thought off.
Yeah.
Once I knew you were confident with yourself, and
Facts.
you know you were confident, not like the cocky confidence, like when you're like, I got it. And if you remember when I started bringing people, you know, to the table, I would ask you specifically, I would say this. I'm like, you got this. Like, do you have it? And you're like, I got it. Okay, great. And then you were delivering and it hit. And there was that bit of like, did we really know if it was going to work? And when it clicked, it just started happening.
Exactly.
And then the next one started unfolding, and the next one started unfolding. And we all have a role here.
Yep.
You know, we all have a role for exactly what we're doing. A lot of, you know, maybe some of it is unspoken, but it works.
It does.
And we gotta trust each other a little
bit.
And tackle. 100%.
Block and tackle, stay focused. what's cool about this podcast and what we're doing is the fact that like we're gonna get to watch this in 5 years and go, holy shit, were we right about some shit and were we really wrong about a bunch of other stuff? But that's why we started this podcast, guys. What is to talk to you, the people that are sitting there that are at 0 or got to 1 and have to start back at 0. It's not ever going to be easy, but what I envision for this podcast is to be the helping hand that I wish I could have listened to when I was spinning my wheels, thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm worried. I'm stressed. I don't have anybody in my corner. We hope to be those people in your corner. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment below. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.